inroads into the Hispanic population down there. They tend to be more on the independent conservative side than they are progressive, like.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Looking Ahead to Beto Days. I am Chris here with my kick-ass co-host, Ryan. Ryan, how's it going?
I am great, and welcome everybody to this special holiday special, Christmas special, looking ahead to Beto Days, looking ahead to Christmas days. You got any big holiday plans this coming up here, Chris?
We are going to do a little bit of traveling. We're going to go down to Nag's Head. It's a day trip. Nag's Head's only like an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours from here.
Yeah.
So we're going to do Christmas morning at home. Then we're going to travel down to Nag's Head with Hannah's family.
Oh, cool. And, I'm actually excited. I got my brother is flying into town. I'm the oldest of 5, so I got a big family. But so this is going to be the first time we're going to have the entire family together for like last 5 years.
That's awesome.
Everybody's been like off. Life happens, so everybody's off doing their own thing. But I think we're actually going to get a full house this year, so real excited about that.
That's pretty cool, man. I knew you had 5 siblings. Mm-hmm. But I did not know you were the oldest, unless you've told me, and I've
told you a million times. And
you probably
forget,
have,
but that's okay. We don't expect much from you, Chris. That's all right.
No, nobody really does. It started with my parents, and I still disappoint them to this day. So,
speaking of disappointments.
Speaking of disappointment, in the I guess it's been about a month since we recorded the episode where we were clued into the fact that Ted Cruz watches the show. Go fuck yourself, Ted.
Yes. Hello, RNC research person. I hope that your life is a hell right now. Good luck with that minimum wage job, and go fuck yourself.
Right?
So.
Yeah. No, you are not doing the Lord's work.
No,
not at all. If any of that stuff is real, he's standing up there. What the fuck are you doing? Not even close to what I said. Did you read that book at all? No, not even once. Not even once. You let that guy, dude. That guy. You let that guy be the one that told you.
Yeah, really, that guy.
Yeah, because that makes sense. You have these supposed chosen people. Yeah, it's a whole thing. It just fucking everybody's misinterpretation of the Bible, and I hope you had to listen to that. I made it long and drawn out, so I just offended every little ounce of your soul. Enjoy that blasphemy.
Right. So anyways, enough about them. Glad to finally get back. Get back in the routine. We got a really special guest we got on. I guess let's not mess around. Let's just go ahead and bring her on. What do you say?
We're gonna go ahead and bring on Rhonda Hart. All right, we'd like to welcome on our favorite Ted Cruz cosplayer, Rhonda Hart. Rhonda, how are you?
I am good tonight. But I'll be honest with you, last week, was it a week ago, with the Michigan mass shooting event, that stuff will mess with your head.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And me and a lot of my other survivor friends, we all kind of have our own little like flashback episodes whenever we get a mass shooting event like that. And this one, like, the more I found out about this kid and the more I learned about the circumstances of what was going on, like, it really just felt like Santa Fe 2.0.
I was mentioning that to Chris, that I couldn't help but notice how many parallels there were
Yeah.
between the two. I mean, it really was kind of crazy.
Yeah, for sure. It was a young kid that shouldn't have had access to a gun anyway. The parents literally bought this for him on Black Friday, which I don't understand why you're buying a gun for a kid that's 15.
On Black Friday, like who?
Yeah,
people go out for TVs. Who's like, you know what? I think I want to go get a sale on a gun. That sounds like a good idea.
Right.
That sounds fucking awesome. Because really the kid is as old as my teenager is, because he's turning 15 in February. So it really it blows my mind. And then how he was literally writing out like, help me, blood and guts everywhere. He wrote something like that. He was literally flying his little freak flag, asking for the grown-ups in the room to step up and help him, and they didn't. They literally like turned around and left this kid.
And it's just so tragic. So many failures on so many different levels, so many opportunities that if someone was just smart for a second, this would have just turned out a whole lot different.
For real.
He had been turned in by several of the teachers, and they had a meeting that morning, and they sent him back to class. And there's no way they didn't check him, or they checked him, because they would have had to have found the gun. He would have had to have had it on him. He did not go home. It was already in the building unless one of the parents brought it to him. And, that gets into way conspiracy theory territory. But, I mean, they did run. So anything's on the table at this point.
Oh, my God. And I was cracking up when I found out that they were on the run. That, to me, was utterly hilarious. Like, go ahead and run from the cops and see what that does to your time.
Mm-hmm.
Bless your little heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trying to sneak into Canada. All things. It's like...
I have a lot of issues with prisons and jails and criminal justice, in general. But I think if you're an adult and you provide a gun to a child, you all can go, we can get family unit jail cells, and all of y'all can go and sit and marinate together for however long your sentence is, because you're just, if not more.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the first cases where parents have been charged. So that's just kind of like changing the scope and the direction of how these things are being handled. I'm not sure what kind of repercussions parents have had before, but this seems like it's been the most serious.
Yeah. So in the state of Texas, it's kind of a joke. If a parent leaves their gun out for anybody that's 16 and under, it's like 30 days in jail and a Class C misdemeanor. That's it. It's like a freaking slap on the wrist.
So, yeah, it's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, like I said, all of y'all need to be staying in that jail cell together, as far as I'm concerned.
No, then it's absolutely ridiculous. You should not be allowing children to have unfettered access to guns like this and just get a slap on the wrist. You need to be liable for that gun. If you had that gun, you need to be liable for every bullet that comes out of that gun. Absolutely. Period. 100%.
It's no different than leaving a bag of drugs on the table. It's just as dangerous. It can do just as much damage to a small child. And the same people who are like, well, no, I can just leave my gun without any kind of safety precautions. Yeah, but then they're going to yell, excuse me, about a bag of cocaine, and like it's any kind of different. It just, I don't see. There's no gray area there. It's the same fucking thing.
Yeah,
it's not. You're accepting that liability. You have a tool that's designed to kill people. That's what it's there for, and you choose to, not handle it responsibly. I'm sorry, you're liable for that. Locking it up and putting it in a secure place is being responsible, not just leaving it out for any kid to have or have unfettered access, especially like in this situation, kids who are having obvious emotional distress.
Oh,
You talk about red flag laws and things like that. Like, here's a perfect example of somebody who should not have had access to that gun at all, period, and then to be given one. There's just so many different wrong things with that.
Let me tell you how bad it is on at ground zero right now with these kids. They're really kind of off the chain, and even the ones that are usually mellowed out aren't. And so the kids are having a hard time adjusting coming off of COVID. There's all sorts of mental health issues. We already do a shitty job of dealing with mental health issues. We already had a shooting in my district at a school this year where luckily nobody died, but that person who shot them, the kid at the school, had already shot a small child on the beach. He had an ankle bracelet on.
Wow.
It's, how does that happen? I've been on lockdown multiple times this year.
Yeah.
It's insane to me. And, while I wasn't in Heritage High School, I was in the district. So it resonated throughout the whole district, everything that was happening, because you have brothers, sisters, cousins, all of that shit. Newport News is big. I am down on the complete opposite side of where Heritage is. But that shit hit all of us. Like, everybody was like, and all the stories that were coming out, and that we've talked about 9/11, the different things you hear, and you never know what's true until it's all over. But it's insane to me, and all the ways that people failed leading up to it, and it seems like the same thing over and over and over again, and nobody gets held accountable. But apparently his parents are, so step forward in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh yes, like I said, I totally support his parents being charged. It's outstanding.
Yeah. They came out with like armfuls of guns and shit.
Yeah, his mom sent him a text message basically saying, well, you need to learn to not get caught this time. How is that right? I don't understand. But I'm glad they're getting their just desserts. It's about damn time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and hopefully, honestly, it serves as a deterrent, because we really need something like that, because dead children is not the deterrent. So maybe if we go after the adults in the room that consistently do nothing, maybe we'll see some change when parents are tired of going to jail because their kid shot up a school.
Anytime that a minor child gets access to a gun, that was a definite choice by the adult in their life, that I'm going to leave my gun in between the couch cushions, or between the mattress and the box spring, where my kid can easily find it. It's too easy to go and get a lockbox or a trigger lock, cable lock, that kind of shit. Bass Pro will give you trigger locks and stuff for free. Mom's Demand Action gives cable locks. It's not like rocket science. So it's definitely a choice, that a parent makes to leave their stuff out. To just get a little vulgar here a little bit. If you're an adult and you have adult toy items and you hide them better than you're hiding your gun from your kids, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Right. You should be just as mortified as when your kid finds your dildo. That's all I'm saying. Just imagine that your gun is a giant rubber dick.
I mean, for that, yes. That's that. I mean, if we want to start talking about, some of the gun culture out there, yeah, totally, that's what it is.
Yeah,
I love those photoshopped, and the one with the U.S. representative where everybody's got like a Uzi and nobody, like this guy is pointing it at the sister and the little kid. Someone went and photoshopped a bunch of dildos in there, and
those are my favorite.
It was great. And then in my local Democratic group, someone photoshopped the picture with what's her name? Insurrectionist Barbie Boebert.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Laura, yeah.
And they were like, support Planned Parenthood.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Man. She is something. Just to even go off on the how do you marry the guy who, showed you their wiener in a bowling alley when you were like a child? Like, how does that seem like a good idea? And how do your parents co-sign on that? How is everybody okay with that? Like, is nobody questioning things?
Who's the one? She's from Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm.
Colorado or
Colorado. She's the one that
Colorado.
She's right. Hollering at Beto that one time.
Yeah, she confronted Beto. She was like, "Well, I have my Glock right here, hardy har har."
Yeah, right. And here's the thing: there are responsible gun owners. My dad is a responsible gun owner. He doesn't have a million weapons. He has very few. He has a giant safe that only he knows the password to. That only he knows the password to. Nobody's getting in that thing. I don't know it. And I'm 35. He's got everything locked up. Even the guns that are over a century and a half old, because we have an 1865 Springfield rifle that was an heirloom. It's super cool, but also it'll explode. You can't. It's super old. You can't do anything with that shit. But still, you can't do anything with it. But it's locked up. He's got a sword from a U.S. Navy sword from World War I, locked up. That is how you treat your weapons. He has a 16-year-old child in the home. My brother hasn't seen a gun, let alone would he know how to use a gun if he stumbled upon it. And that is probably 95% of your kids. And, it's not hard to be responsible. It really isn't. I'm pretty sure he has in the safe, he has the locks on him as well.
Good.
Yeah, he's like a super anal retentive person. Everything has its place. Like, if you've ever seen Big Hero 6, how the guy has the outlines, that is exactly how my father is. That's him.
Right. But so Rhonda, that's kind of a lot of the work that's something a lot of the work you've been doing also has been really focused on safe storage of guns and making sure that things are secure, right?
Yeah, people ask me, what are your top issues, to reduce gun violence? And, we get a lot of blowback on the Democratic side. And I know where he was coming from. But it was in the September presidential debate when Beto said, "Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15s." That really, I don't think that the public needs to have access to AR-15s. But I also realize it's like trying to deport every illegal migrant worker here. Like, there's not enough resources to deport everybody that's here illegally, right? So we don't have the resources to round up all of your guns. That's just not possible. But he was saying it because he was 30 days out from the El Paso shooting and like emotions were high and all that. But the most reasonable thing that folks can do is to get a safe and just lock their shit up. Like, you don't want anybody to steal it, right? Why would you leave your gun in your car? Because your car's not safe. It's basically surrounded by glass. Seriously, you have if y'all take out your phones, how many, both of you right now, do you have biometric to unlock your phone?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's too freaking easy, right? Just get yourself a biometric safe and it takes like 1 second to open. It won't at all impact your timing if, God forbid, you do get broken into and you just have to unlock your biometric safe, right?
Well, yeah, and that would actually be better security wise than a safe would be better than like a corded.
Yeah.
Those cables.
Yeah.
You would actually want a safe if you were carrying one. Yes.
Yeah.
For that purpose.
And
and it should be required. It should be, unless you're maintaining control of that weapon, it needs to be secured. And security means, somewhere safe, secure, locked.
And so that's number one. The number one issue that I mentioned, if those guns had been, in our case, if those guns had been locked up and secure away from that kid, our shooting would have never happened. Or if the kid had been removed from the house and maybe, at his other parents' house where there weren't any guns, the shooting doesn't happen. So we know that, like, when folks are feeling suicidal, that if they have access to guns, we know that they're able to complete that thought process about 90% of the time. If we take a gun out of the equation and they like cut themselves or swallow a bunch of pills or whatever, we can reverse that. We can stitch you back up. We can make you puke. We can bring you back around. But it's that having that, having that deadly weapon in the equation really fucks it up.
It's like for real. Like there's no coming back from that. But you
don't come back from a gun to the head.
No, and that's honestly, I'd never even thought about that. Like the other things are reversible. You can save, a child who is the number of children suicide this year is going to be insane. Let me tell you, just based off of, what I'm seeing in schools. So like, why wouldn't we want to take that extra step? And, we can kind of tie this into a couple of the other more recent news items. We care about babies when they're in the womb, but not when they're born, apparently.
Or at
Supreme Court.
This is what fucks with my head sometimes, is that, a fetus at 14 weeks, boy, that's an important thing right there. We have to protect that at all costs. You have to excuse me, my stupid dogs are barking.
It's okay.
It's okay. Mine's locked outside.
My kid having her heart be 14 years old in art class, that was not important. That didn't matter. Republicans want to have the fetus grow just a little bit until they're old enough to quote unquote harvest in a school shooting or on the battlefield with the military.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's they aren't concerned about rights, though. I mean, I've kind of come to a conclusion that it's just a method of control on them. It's really what it is. It's, government so small it can fit in your uterus.
Yeah.
It's just a way of controlling people. It's a way of implementing some theocracy that you can only have sex in a certain manner prescribed by God, and that's really what it is. And I'm tired I'm tired of pretending that it's anything other than that. I mean,
it's true, but it doesn't mean it's not terrible. And clearly, it doesn't work. The Catholic Church is a great example.
Is that why they call it the missionary position?
Probably. I don't know. It's probably because it's boring. I don't know, man. I can't imagine being that the life that, it's great. Just nobody can enjoy anything. The one natural joy that all of us get, we're just going to fuck that up for all of you. I just want to have nice things.
Yeah, we can't have nice things.
No.
It's a way, and I'm going to try not to share too much information here, but forcing women to carry through with these pregnancies that they don't want. So they're making women have these babies that they don't necessarily want to have, maybe that they can't afford, that the other sperm donor parent figure doesn't want. They're making women carry the babies, but then on the flip side of this, I can tell you that they're not hiring more staffers in the child support division of the state of Texas,
or probably anywhere.
So these women that probably can't afford to have babies are now having babies. And there's no way to track down the other parent. And as a custodial, because I'm going through this as a custodial person, custodial parent in the state of Texas, you can't enforce your own child support orders without hiring a lawyer to draft your shit. So you have to spend money to get your money for your child support, which is absolutely ridiculous.
That doesn't even make any sense. Yeah. That's just how they get you. That's how they siphon money out of you. And that's, what they're doing is honestly, it sounds like they're creating a workforce. If they force them to have babies when they can't, it creates it creates more poor people, which creates more workers who are willing to do the labor, which helps the rich get richer. Which is just not how good for capitalism in the long run when you have a whole lot of pissed off poor people. The terror sound familiar to anybody? The guillotine and shit. I don't want to fuck around with that. Right. Nah, man, fuck those guys. Do what you need to.
It's literally like, just put the women on a little hamster wheel and let them run around and spin until they fall off, and keep them barefoot, pregnant, and chained to the stove.
It's not progress, not even in the
no, close. It's not progress. And there's also information out there that says when you keep folks like right at that poverty line, maybe just a little bit above it, and then you go and dangle things like 3 hot meals a day and a bed to sleep in and free medical care and all the travel that you want with the U.S. military.
Yeah.
People go for it. They really do. College money, that's why I joined. They promised me how much money for college. That's 100% why I did it. But it works. I mean,
I joined. That's what got me to join. I joined during peacetime. We'd been at war for the last 20 years, so it's a little different now.
I've never asked you, how long were you in total before it wasn't peacetime? Because you had joined it like right before then, didn't you?
I joined in 99. So yeah, I joined in 99.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
So we would have been in at the same time. So I went to boot camp in summer of 2000. And I was right there at Fort Eustis on September 11.
Yeah, I was in. I just got to the Pentagon on September 7th.
Oh,
I was actually in the Pentagon during 9/11. Yeah.
Holy crap! I went to the Pentagon like 7 months after. Mm-hmm. And like we went, because it's all layers, and we went up to like the last layer that got penetrated and like. Mm-hmm. Saw the drywall and all that stuff.
Yeah. It was it's definitely an interesting time.
I was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's funny though. Like
I was down the road from Rhonda though. I was in Becosin, which I'm sure you know, and have the same feelings I have towards. I fucking hate that place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think, if we called mass shootings, especially school shootings, if we called them massive late-term abortions, maybe they would get a little bit more traction.
Right. Maybe Joel Osteen may care just a little bit.
Maybe.
Right.
Ugh.
Maybe. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Something. I mean, you keep hoping something's going to change. It's kind of hard after Sandy Hook and, the amount of trauma that those parents had to go through with
continue to go
Alex
through.
Jones bullshit. And, special shout out to Mr. Alex Jones, who is an absolute total piece of shit and
fuck you, Alex.
Run hell forever. Hopefully he
gets
interrupted first, because I think those parents are going to win some big money off of him and actually be able to collect. So I'm really hoping that we'll get justice out of that one.
Oh yeah, no.
But that's the kind of things we need. We need more of that. We need more people taking responsibility for their actions. And I think that's the real problem that we're facing here with all these shootings and everything that's going on, is that, these aren't just individuals that, and this is true of everything, these aren't just individuals that are happening in isolation. There is a system around them that could be responsible and are failing, and they are not being held liable afterwards. You know, maybe if we started increasing the liability of some of these people, you know, yes, I'm glad to see that these parents are being held accountable. Now we need to start holding all the parents accountable. You know, we need to start holding, you know, hey, where did they get that weapon from? The people who allowed them to have access to that need to be held accountable. Maybe people start thinking about what happens with their you know, with their guns and what they're doing, and maybe start considering whether or not it's worth it to have a gun in the house.
Absolutely.
You know, like it's not something that's just it's a right and a responsibility at the same time. And I think the problem that we're facing here isn't that we want to take away people's rights, it's that we want to make sure people are responsible. You know, we forget the Second Amendment also says well regulated. Mm-hmm. Like this is something that's kind of that they recognize was important as well. You can't just have armed civilians running around en masse, woohoo, Wild West, shooting each other. You know, that's stupid. That's not how a society is built. You know,
when they initially wrote the Second Amendment, it was 1775, 76, and you used to have to stand there and put the little musket ball into your rifle. You had to pack it a certain way. It took you about 45 seconds to a minute to fire one little musket ball. Mm-hmm. And maybe it would hit your guy that you were aiming at. That's why they say there's that famous battle. They said, don't fire till you see the whites of their eyes, because that's how shitty the gun was. It
Bunker
would
Hill.
Yeah.
You wouldn't aim for anything. So you had to be up close to get that shot. And now we have M16s, we have 50 cals, we've got AK-47s, and these things are designed to hunt people down on the battlefield. That's literally all they do. And you know, as the technology changes, so does that Second Amendment needs to be adjusted a little bit. I've said it, you know, I said it in this podcast. Joe the plumber down the road from me does not need an AR-15.
Not even a little bit.
Not even the police, you know, the Republicans say we back the blue, but it's turned into whack the blue. The police can't carry enough armor to protect themselves against the level of firepower that these civilians are allowed to acquire.
Yeah, and that's a problem on so many different levels.
We're militarizing the police because guess what? We have military hardware just running around, and like you said, these are like, yes, an AR-15 is a military weapon. You know, the militaries do not use this weapon because it's, you know, a hunting gun. They use it because it gives them an advantage on the battlefield. You know, like this is what this gun is designed for. You know, this isn't a hog hunting gun. This is a gun that is used to fight battles.
It is meant for one thing. Mm-hmm. And it's the Second Amendment has hit the Supreme Court before on multiple occasions, right? Where they've made rulings where you can't have a sawed-off shotgun, you can't have certain things. That's well regulated. It wasn't until like 2009 until they were like, "Fuck it, everybody can have anything. Just take what you want."
Yep.
It is
to the Supreme Court. It might start getting worse. I mean,
yeah.
You know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens come this summer when they start actually releasing their rulings, but I don't know. We might be in for a rough ride here with the abortion access, because you know, if they start limiting it to, I think there's a case in Mississippi and they're talking about limiting it to 15 weeks, but you know, if you're starting that downward slide, they're just going to keep pushing the envelope.
Yep,
and they're just going to keep doing it. So we're going to end up in a situation, you know, we're going to have to do something about the Supreme Court. At some point, it's going to have to happen.
Absolutely. They're going to have to pack the court. That's just going to be the thing that has to happen.
I mean, I think it's been one of those, nobody's really wanted to address it because there hasn't been like the MacGuffin or the high priority issue that's like going to rally people. But Roe versus Wade will do it.
Yeah.
I'll get people, go ahead. You want to eliminate it. Well, you're going to see the legitimacy of the court like get thrown out on its ear.
Yep. And that's where we're at. And this is going to be an interesting ride. And I've already told Hannah, because they elected Youngkin here. We're going to keep a Democratic Senate for however long we need to. I'm hoping at least until the next time around we can maybe pull the House and the governorship back, because if he could pass an abortion law here, he's going to try it. And if they pass that, I'm not staying here. I refuse to stay in a state that doesn't respect my wife's right to autonomy. And I've told her that multiple times. Like, I'll find it. We will figure something the fuck out. Yeah. But that's a line for me. And just, not that I need to stick up for her, because she could probably kick Glenn Youngkin's ass. Not that, she would. But,
I've always...
Don't need the RNC bringing that shit up.
Yeah, I've always been lucky where I've been able to make my own choices and have everything under control. But especially after Donald Trump was elected in 2016, Kimberly and I, did start to have some conversations. And, this sounds a little sick and twisted, but a small part of me is glad I'm not raising a daughter right now. And I don't have to worry about this reproductive shit for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I miss her terribly. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, good Lord, what are they going to do next? And I'm glad I don't have to fight that for her.
It's they have that poem. First they came for the socialists, and I was not a socialist, so I said nothing. They're coming for women's rights now. They're going to go for LGBTQ rights next. And at what point they've already made the statements that this is a Christian nation. When do they start coming for those rights too? Like, where does it end? Where does it stop? We're throwing shit out the window for fucking sociopaths and people who are in fucking Dallas waiting for goddamn JFK to come back. Like, he's gonna come to the fucking place that they killed him. Are you guys serious?
Who wants to tell them?
Right. No, if he's coming back, right, it's going to be in Massachusetts, and he was a Democrat. He masterminded the fucking Civil Rights Act.
Yeah, I don't know about those people. Though Q is something else. It's
fucking something.
It's just basically like weaponized flat earthers is really what it is.
Uh-huh.
It's crazy.
Bless their hearts.
Right?
I know.
It takes actual effort to be that fucking stupid.
I mean, it
has to.
I think it's a cult. You talk about cult mentality with Trump, but I mean, here it is in full display. He specifically formed these cult around his personality, and it isn't spun off. And here we have people camped out for JFK. It's
the fucking signs with JFK and a MAGA hat. Just fucking, they crack me the fuck up. It's only a matter of time till they come up with something really, really ridiculous. We need to come up with something that really fucks with their sense of I don't know. It's gotta be good.
JFK coming back from the dead to endorse Donald Trump isn't doing it for you.
No. It's got to be way more than that. We got it.
I mean, these are people who they're flat earthers. I'm telling you, they're flat earthers.
George Washington or Abraham Lincoln was the reincarnation of Abraham Lincoln, and he's going to reappear on a hill in Illinois, of which he was born, coming back to fight the vampires. We can sell this. It's not going to be hard. They're fucking stupid.
There's vampires?
I don't know. We can throw in whatever we want. Werewolves, mogwai,
yes,
whatever it takes. So we have recently, it has come to our attention, because we have to deal with it repeatedly the last few weeks, that the RNC and Ted Cruz listened to our show. Whether they do in reality is not. But
no, they do. They totally do. They're listeners.
100%. 100%. That motherfucker listens every week, and he has to hear us talk. Just at least a staffer of his.
Right. So that's why we say if we do nothing else but make them pay some staffer minimum wage to listen to us, I think it's worth it to keep doing this podcast. Right.
Right. Absolutely. And I think we need to start a segment called "What Would You Like to Say to Ted?" So Rhonda, what would you like to say to Ted?
Jesus Christ. Again, I just responded or retweeted one of his tweets, and he was going off about the Supreme Court and the sanctity of life and defending, the lives of the unborn. And I replied back and I was like, you know what? I get it. A 14-week heartbeat, super important. A 14-year-old heartbeat, not so much. I just, he won't fucking get it until his own kids or his wife is shot. And I wouldn't wish that on him. As much as I fucking hate him, I wouldn't wish that on him. And you know what, Ted? Grow a fucking pair of cojones and stand up and say that you safe store at your house. You fucking told me in February last year that you safe store your guns at home. Do you know how much of a fucking difference that could make if you spoke on that publicly? Fucking revolutionize things. But no, you got to be a chicken shit and bow to the NRA and not say anything positive that could, prevent the next mass shooting. Suck it, Ted.
Suck it, Ted, indeed. He is the human embodiment of a moose knuckle. Like if a moose knuckle was a person, it's fucking Ted Cruz. I'm trying to watch what I say on Twitter because I eventually want to get verified. But Ted Cruz can gag a maggot. He's so gross. Yeah.
I'm
pretty sure something could happen to. I mean, Donald Trump already called his wife ugly, and he was like, "Oh no, dude, I'm totally." Yeah, I'm gonna let him cuddle me. That's what's gonna happen. He's such. He's Jerry from Rick and Morty. If Jerry got elected to office, I don't know if you guys have seen fucking Rick and Morty.
I have, but I don't think that I don't know. He's a little bit more. Jerry's.
No. There's an episode where I guess there's an embodiment of him is a fucking worm, and that's all I see with Ted Cruz. Because all it wants to do is suck on the teat of the Beth monster fucking bug thing, and that's Ted Cruz.
The next time Beto comes to Houston area, really my cutoff is Conroe.
Mm-hmm.
But the next time he comes to Houston area or Galveston, I'm gonna bust out the gray polo shirt and the Texas mask.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things.
Oh my God.
I fucking, every time you bring that up or I see it, I show Hannah and I'm like, look at this fucking genius. You are our favorite for sure. And we,
you were talking about he pays a staff member or something minimum wage. I can tell you too that my congressman reads my Facebook comments on his page.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you can find these little ways to bug the shit out of these GOP guys, do it. Send them just fucking the most random postcards.
What you thinking about?
And leave random messages on Mitch McConnell's, why are you such a turtle dick?
That is true, though. I mean, politics, needs to be personal. You need to know, you need to be able to hear from your constituents. And, I hear a lot of people talking about, if you see him in public, say something. See somebody say something. Go for it.
Call him a turtle.
I've watched Beto handle that very well from people, and he's always. Every time I've seen him, I had several opportunities to see him in public, and random people will come up, and he handles it gracefully.
Yeah, it was all going to throw hands at somebody. But the main phone number to Washington, D.C., write this down, guys, is 202 224-3121, and the operator answers, and you just say, I need such and such office. I need Lauren Bobert's office. I need Marjorie Trader Green. And you can leave them messages. It's amazing.
And someone listens to those.
And they have to. And
they have to.
Yeah. And they have office there to answer the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Just for our listeners' benefit, turtle wieners are weird. I Googled it because she called somebody a turtle dick, and I was like, what? I've never heard that before, but you know what?
I don't know. Do we really want to be encouraging our listeners to Google turtle dicks?
I'm not encouraging anybody. I did it for them. That's exactly what I just did. I had to.
You suffered for everybody else, right?
Did. It's always. It's for the greater good.
Okay.
Whatever, don't like stoop to their level, because we have heard those messages that were left on Ilhan Omar's.
Mm-hmm.
Calling her the N-word and death threats and that. Don't say that kind of shit. Just tell them that like they need to step on a kid's Lego or something.
Right.
Yeah, I believe in elevating your insults. If you have to, you have to get down to, high school, middle school level stuff. You lost.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do it, be clever. Do something clever. Don't be, and you can tell somebody how you feel without necessarily being an asshole.
Yeah,
like there is a line there, but
So where does telling Josh or saying Josh Hawley tucks it in and keeps girls in pits in his basement? Where does that fall? He gives off really serious wild vibes.
Ooh, what about what's his name? Matt Gaetz. When is he gonna get indicted?
Like he's
I don't know.
A real serial felon. Like Holly fucking is just a weird dude that probably didn't have many friends in high school, but like Gaetz.
That was Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was a weird person who didn't have many friends in high school. Have you seen his high school page? He was a mime.
I have this little like pet conspiracy theory in my head that Josh Duggar was just found guilty on charges of Charlie Papa, right? We know the CP and SA on his little sisters. I have this theory that like Josh Duggar and Matt Gaetz like ran in those same circles, and like Matt is up next to get in trouble.
I would fucking hope so. Yeah, I do.
Family Values PAC in DC for a while, and there's photos of him floating around with Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, all them GOP dudes.
Yep.
I'm waiting for this trial of Gish and Maxwell to come out and find out what Trump was all doing at those parties.
Yeah, I want to know what all of them were doing. My big thing is criminal justice reform and fighting for those who are incarcerated. However, my line is children. If you fucking do anything to a child, anything is fair game. Children are the most innocent thing on the planet. They don't have a choice, but the adults do. And when the adults decide to do shitty things to those children, bury them under the jail.
Circling back to what we were talking about earlier, allow those kids to do shitty things, and literally put the gun in their hand and send them into the classroom.
Same idea.
Yeah.
Like, how far are we going to allow this to happen?
Yep, for real.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on and joining us. This has been a lot of fun. We need to do this more often. Yeah. It's always great to have you on.
Oh, yeah. We need to do this. Like, I don't know how often y'all put this out, like once a month or whatever. But we should totally do this again and make it a regular contribution. And, I'll be honest, you guys need a female on here.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yep. And I need, so I got one of those I got a cry cut. So I'm going to need Hannah to send me all those images that we were talking about.
I've got you. She had a party she had to throw, and so at one point in time, it looked like the bag that she carried them exploded in the back of my car, and there were glittery dicks everywhere.
Oh, awesome.
Everywhere.
I have these little, and they are little. There's a company online called Dick Switch.
Oh yeah.
And they 3D print them, and they fit over your toggles on your light switches.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm buying a bunch of those, and I counted the number of light switches in my father-in-law's house.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I told my mother-in-law before she passed was I was going to do that to him before we moved out, and we ran out of time because we had to rush out because she was sick. But I'm going to get him because I'm going on winter break, and he's going to be at work all day. I might have to order some of those, and he's just going to come on at home and just start flipping wieners. God, it's going to be so worth it for me.
And they've expanded their line now to where you can get them with a little suction cup base. A mag.
Oh, that's incredible.
You can get them as valve stem covers for your tires.
That's fucking hilarious. Please don't tell the students at school that.
No,
every teacher career.
They're only like $10 for a bag of 10. And, they just like fit real quietly, I guess you could say, inconspicuously in a padded envelope. That's just one of those little things that you could mail your senator a card and slip in a little dick in it and say, here you go, man.
If you had to guess how many of these dicks have randomly gone into the universe?
Oh God, I don't know. I know I've ordered at least 2 bags of them.
Yeah, I see them all the time because I talk about your Cox not Glock sign all the time. And I like how we're ending this episode and we've routinely gone back to talking about plastic phallic objects. And I hate that that's a weird theme that ends up on this show because Roger Stone looks like a dildo dressed as a Batman villain. That's the thing. Yeah. Tell me I'm fucking wrong. The man's head is shaped like the fucking Vader helmet. You can't do anything else with that.
Yep.
I mean, the man literally has a dick tattooed on his back.
Absolutely. Oh, Jesus Christ.
You all know that actually Ted Cruz pushed a law to limit the amount of dildos that you can own.
Oh, yeah.
The limit is 6.
Yep.
So what happens if you get caught with a 7th dildo? Who has that conversation?
We're going to go door to door to confiscate that dildo.
I just imagine a fucking cop standing there shaking it at you. This is 7 dildos. This is 1 dildo 2 minutes. It's like flopping back and forth and he's trying to take it seriously.
But I can tell you from personal experience that if you really do want to embarrass those bubbas and make them turn their backs around, just carry a giant Cox Not Glock sign to your next Black Lives Matter rally protest. It's hilarious. They wanted nothing to do with me.
You're my hero. Fucking, I love that. That's just so funny.
Oh God, I just snorted. Yeah, all right, guys.
So on that note, so once again, thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, we'll definitely we'll be talking again soon. So
absolutely, we can make this. We can definitely make this a regular thing.
And I think that getting back to the original theme of why we're all on this for Beto, how we all met. Maybe as we get after the primaries and we start getting like a firm idea of like who lieutenant governor is going to be and who's really going to be on those ballots from November. I think we really should pick it up. I mean, it's important. It's fucking important.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Have it out. God, he's such a twat.
All of them.
Absolutely.
Twat waffle indeed.
So. Maybe we'll talk about Greg Abbott next because I
Oh, we have things to say for sure. But next up, tune in next time.
Next time on not Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
All right, guys, throwing it back to the regular show. It's always great when Rhonda comes on the show.
Oh yeah, she's great.
She's fantastic. She's really fucking funny. And just she fits right. Anytime she comes on, it's just
I love listening to her just start spitting fire. She gets going for sure.
for real, she really doesn't like Ted Cruz.
No,
but to be fair, I don't think Ted Cruz doesn't like Ted Cruz.
It's like people like the idea of Ted Cruz, but nobody really likes him as a politician. It's like,
right?
Oh, I like that guy because he's giving it to the liberals and telling them how it is, and the reality is he's just like for example, our tweet that got us going. If you looked at his Twitter recently, he tweets non-stop. He tweets worse than Trump ever tweeted. It's just ridiculous how much that man tweets.
He's a cartoon character, right? Seriously. He's a cartoon character who has the sad tuba that follows him around all the time. But, he likes it all of the time. Like he just died in Mario.
Right. I mean, it'd be funny if he wasn't just such a absolute horrible
dipshit
human being, but he's our senator for the next 4 years, so we got to deal with it. I mean, wait,
no. Is it 3 now?
No,
it's 3.
Wait, no, yeah, I was about to say no. Wait, no, that's right, because Cornyn just got elected. He's up next, but we got a governor race in between now and then, and that's got something we got to. Lots going on.
Sink our teeth into that.
Oh man,
it's
starting to pick up. Beto announced, and so I think the Democrats finally have a horse in the race who can actually run. It's not just some lame guy. I mean, we still have a primary coming up, and there are technically primary challengers to Beto.
Are there? I had no idea.
There are several. Now,
are they actual ones, or are they the ones that the RNC are like, hey, we're going to give you this?
Well, they're actual real Democrats with actual. I mean, I would say I can't say necessarily vouch for all of them, but I will say yes, there are actual real Democrats with actual real platforms who are running.
That's awesome.
The fundamental problem still comes is Texas is fucking huge, and you can't just run a little. What works in one state just doesn't work in another state. Not only is it huge landmass wise, but huge population wise. So you can't just build a little small plucky campaign and go at it. You got to have something that can iterate on itself and become just massive. You can get by with a plucky campaign that can get away with this, but you can't do it unless you Texas. You really need to be able to iterate yourself. You really need to be able to let it blow up, and you need money for that. Beto came up with $2 million in his first day. It's pretty big splash. That's not chump change.
Not at all.
And the good thing I think with Beto's campaign is he has proven in the past multiple times now. His presidential campaign was about as lean as you could get. His, the beginning of his Senate run was pretty lean. You can get a pretty lean campaign and do well with that kind of money. So, and he's proven he can do it. Oh,
absolutely. He's drawing huge crowds.
He's getting
all over Texas.
He's getting good crowd. I mean, he's already out there talking to everybody, going everywhere. He came by Galveston already. Yep. I think he came by later last time. He came by Galveston already. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to go see him. That was just.
That's your bad. Okay.
Well, unfortunately, as much as I like Beto, I like my mortgage getting paid better. So I had work. I know. But he went to Beaumont, and my mom got to see him, and
that's cool.
got to meet him, get a picture. Apparently, very strong responses. Got a lot of talk about. Women's rights to choose was a big issue, dealing with that. And also what was the other one? I think it was. Let's see. It was women rights to choose. Oh, and gerrymandering. Gerrymandering was a huge issue, and that's something that's if you're not from the state. I don't know, Virginia. You're probably going through this right now because you have a gerrymandering fight there. I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, no, it's bad. They're trying to gerrymander real bad, and it's getting handed over to the Supreme Court, who is super conservative. So the guys who aren't supposed to be political are going to be political and be like, oh no, we can split up all the Democrats, and oh wait. People of color typically vote Democrat there. Let's go ahead and break them up into 3 different things. That's predominantly like Dan Crenshaw's district. It looks like Bart Simpson.
Oh, it's ridiculous. This is one of the most gerrymandered. I mean, my district.
Jim Jordan's is bad too, but he's in Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch. Texas is a very gerrymandered state. I mean, mine is an extremely heavy Republican majority. I think it's like a Republican 35 plus 35 or something around here.
Good old Randy Weber.
It's that bad, but it's gerrymandered to hell because the only reason it's considered contiguous is because of a boat. Like the ferry that connects the island to the peninsula, like on the other side, is the only reason why it's considered contiguous. Otherwise, it would be an illegal. And they're pulling so many different things. Like that is the one thing about Texas is Republicans try and play this game that they say gerrymandering is about. Yes, it's unfair, but we're doing it based on partisan reasons, not racial reasons.
But that doesn't hold up when you break up predominantly Latino neighborhoods, which is a big problem in Texas.
In Texas, it's black neighborhoods. Is that you're breaking up predominantly black neighborhoods and specifically decreasing their voting power. Yes. They're trying to act like, oh, well, this is just Democrats are just doing this as an overlap, and they're making partisan stuff about race, and not realizing that no, it really is about politics. Like it isn't partisan. It is racial. You have a group that is, what's the word I'm looking for? Disenfranchised, who's finally able to get some power, and you're breaking that up. And here's the funny part: like if they just let it evolve naturally, the reality is that most of the black community probably would vote. Like a large part of the black community around here would vote Republican on a lot of issues if they would just stop being so goddamn racist and trying to shut black people down every time they looked around. Like it's kind of silly.
Yeah, it completely defeats the purpose of their job. Like their jobs aren't to legislate anymore. Their jobs are just to get elected. Like they're not doing anything but playing to part. And it's and I don't want to say the GOP is completely guilty, and the Democrats aren't. But I think the Democrats on a whole they have a whole fucking disaster on their own with Mr. Manchin over there. I'm not even going to.
Oh yeah,
fuck that guy specifically. That dude has come out and said some dumb fucking shit, and I'm sorry to go on.
I don't honestly. When it comes to Manchin, I'm not sure why everybody is surprised. He's told everybody this is how I'm going to vote for the last 3 months. He voted on the infrastructure bill and passed 1 point. Honestly, this is one of the things that kind of irritates me about Democrats. I'm going to get on a little bit of a rant here. Passed.
Once you're done with yours, I'm going to go back on mine.
They passed $1.7 trillion, $1,700,000,000,000 in infrastructure spending.
A couple quarters.
Like they passed that, and then now they went back for another. 1.3, 1.5 is what the last one was. I forget the actual numbers. It's like. You put this bill up there knowing it would fail and knowing you didn't have the votes for it and support for it. So instead of celebrating and pushing and saying, look at what we were able to accomplish and going into the midterms with the high note of Democrats succeeded, we actually got you something that was important. Yeah, maybe it wasn't everything with climate change and all this other stuff, but you know what? We got some important stuff like fixing the roads and doing some basic governance. And that's that's a message you could take into the midterm and say, look, I get it. It's not everything. We don't have the votes, but hell, we're doing something, we're governing. Instead, because of all this that's going on with Manchin, I really get the impression that we're now going into this, we're putting out the idea into the world ourselves that Democrats don't do anything. They can't even get their own act together to pass their own bills.
Well, yeah, and it is contingent on him, right? Like, and that's because they refuse to pass filibuster legislation. They refuse to do a whole lot of things.
All that's contingent on him too.
And that's very true. But and that's another message we can move forward with. And then I've got a Bodie story. They're always good. This one pertains to Joe Manchin, actually. So we could use this. Like, if you want this stuff passed, we need to win in the midterms. Mm-hmm. We have to go out and show up at the polls, neutralize Joe Manchin, make it so it doesn't matter.
He would probably if he wasn't the swing vote, if he was vote number 52 and not 50, he'd vote a yes. I guarantee you. He'd vote yes.
This gets him a ton of attention. And the worst part is the shit he's saying behind people's back. Talking about, all these people are just spending their child tax credit on drugs. Fuck you.
Well,
Fuck
yeah.
You,
keep a lot of that. Again, I get it. Keep a lot of that with a grain of salt. People, but
no, seriously, no, fuck that. Like, I use my kid's child tax credit on his daycare.
I'm saying I would take that statement with a grain of salt. I'm not convinced that was a faithful representation of what he said. That's the one problem is you do get a lot of knee-jerk reactions when stuff like this happens, and people do tend to make a lot of accusations that may not be entirely accurate or entirely fair or representative. I mean, the reality is...
Has he come out and denied it?
The reality is Joe Manchin is still a better senator than any Republican.
I mean...
Yes. Yeah. Better than a Republican. Granted, that's a low bar. But it's a bar that needs to be. But it's a bar that needs to be cleared. It's still a bar that needs to be cleared, though. Like that's the state of our politics. Is at least he's not a Republican. If we were, I would be much more prone to go on the because I gotta think selfish here too. Strategically, like. I want a very great progressive senator like Beto to go out there and, do this. I also recognize that there's a very real possibility the first senator who I do get who's a Democrat will probably be a lot more like Joe Manchin. Would you rather have Joe Manchin or Ted Cruz as your senator?
Ted Cruz is an extremely low bar.
But this is the world I live in, and this is the world that a lot of Democrats in red areas live in, where you're not necessarily going at the latest, and you're not necessarily going with what your heart wants. You're going with what can get elected and get the other people out of office. That's the problem.
It shouldn't be like that.
You're right.
It should be about.
But as long as we have a two-party system,
the
unfortunate reality is, as long as we have a two-party system, that's what it's going to be. If we had ranked choice voting, if we had more of a parliamentary system where more than two parties were viable, it would not be like that.
Or we just outlaw the ways that these guys make it a job. We put on term limits, like make it not lucrative to be a representative in Congress. That it shouldn't be lucrative. And Nancy Pelosi said that some dumb fucking thing about them being able to trade. No, you don't get to do that when you go into public service. And originally the idea was you go into public service, you give up everything because you were dedicated to public service.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Any kind of anything extra. And that's the way it was when this country started. We are super, 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 super far from that, right? Like, if Ted Cruz were a fucking NASCAR car, you wouldn't know what color he was painted because there'd be so many fucking logos on his ass.
It's true. The reality is Ted Cruz might still get elected, but
Yeah, he's not doing anything for anybody. He's doing things for Ted Cruz. He doesn't give a shit about you. None of them do. That's the sad, and that's not to take away from all Democrats, and we're kind of getting away from the thing with Pelosi, which is just fucking stupid.
Yeah. No, I mean, I will tell you, I'm not a big. Personally, I think that term limits are the wrong way to address this issues. I'm generally not a fan of term limits as a concept, but that's the personal opinion, though.
Yeah, well, Strom Thurmond ran for president in 1948. He died in the Senate in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was in his 90s when he died. It's the
question. Well, I think the question for me is,
did he shouldn't be a career?
Well, does it? If constituents have someone who think that that is accurately representing their needs, why should they be forced to give that up?
They should be actively cultivating the people within their community that are going to be the next.
I 100% agree, and that's why I remember
that person's going to be old or die at some point in time, or something's going to happen.
That's the reason why Beto didn't go back to his Congress seat, is because at some point you need to make room for other people to come up.
Because it's not a career to him. It's something that he does because he has a sense of duty.
The problem with term limits, and here's the problem that you really run into, is what you basically do when you have term limits is you give all the power over to the lobbyists.
Well, that's why you neuter the power.
It doesn't matter because that's not the the problem. Isn't the power? It's the brain trust of how to make government work. You get those people in there who, a constituent who's been in there for a couple of years. Let's use John Cornyn as an example. He's been there for a couple of years. Yeah, he's a Republican senator, but he's also a whip, also capable. You could call his office and get constituent services, and is someone who knows how to get something done in government. If you had to then turn around and anytime you wanted to get something done, you didn't know how to do it, and by the way, there was no other elected official who knew how to do it. Something just as simple as parliamentary procedures or how to craft the bill and write it in a way so that it can get through committees. Things like that. You don't want to be lost. So and
a senator can't do that in 6 years.
It's one of those things. Effectively, no.
If I couldn't effectively teach in 6 years, they'd fire me. If I can't effectively do my job,
we're talking Congress more than we are Senate, honestly. But
no, and that's what I mean. If you can, even if you go to the 4 years with the
thing you got. So let's put it this way:
representatives,
whoever is sitting in the Capitol, by virtue of them just being there, they are going to be they're the ones who are going to be collecting the power, right? Does that make sense?
No, I got you, and I get it with the whole idea of lobbyists. I think that's bullshit too. We should have gotten rid of that when we realized that the cigarette companies were lobbying to get cigarettes to kids and shit like that. That should have been oh no, we should absolutely not do that.
No, I mean,
same thing with
I agree. Shit. I think we have a serious problem with lobbying, and that to me, the lobbying issue really needs to get tied to campaign finance reform. And
100%. And the problem is you're not going to get that because it doesn't. I mean, either side, you have the ones that are, they use it.
Oh yeah, no, it's totally a problem. It's both sides have the same issue where you go to if you're a congressman and you go to Congress, you get assigned a cubicle and there's a room, and they're expected to put 8 hours a day calling constituents and doing fundraising. That's just an expectation. Which is, I think, one of the reasons. Isn't that one of the reasons why Beto ended up on the Veteran Affairs Committee instead of the Armed Services Committee? Because he refused to do that, and so they put the big donors on the Armed Services Committee, and he got on the Veterans Affairs Committee.
Yeah, sounds about right. I don't know specifically.
I seem to remember that being a thing. So yeah, it's and so yeah, the base that was at Fort Bliss, that's up there. Like that's the first time that I think their congressman wasn't represented on the Armed Services Committee, or something like it was something along those. I can't. Maybe it wasn't the Armed Services. That's the Senate committee. It was something else. I can't remember.
I have no clue.
Anyways, the point being,
I get what you're saying, and
fundraising needs to stop.
Anyway.
Like the problem is that's like we even talked about it. That was one of the reasons why Beto becomes a viable governor race over some of the other ones. Is because of fundraising. Well,
yeah.
If you think that's a problem, then that's a problem, and that's something that maybe we shouldn't be judging Beto based on his fundraising ability. But you can't.
Yeah, but there's a lot of those. I think what it was done in like $20 increments or something like that. It's not like he's got. It's not. He didn't make $2 million on like one
right.
guy.
And we had to be
lots and lots and lots.
We had to be fair here. We're talking about idealized system. We got to deal with the system we're actually in, like.
And that's very, very true, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about the things that, especially when it comes to things like voting rights, right? Like Texas is actively trying to neuter voting rights for people of color. That shouldn't be allowed. They're actively trying to. They're basically making the great white society. If you asked them, they're taking people. They're neutralizing people of color's voice. They're taking over their communities. I mean, at what point in time did they start using eminent domain to start to start pushing out lower income families from places?
That's been
I mean, they're already doing that shit, right? Like here in Virginia, and it's funny because this never came to fruition, and this was before 2016. But they were supposed to build like a casino or like gambling boats or some dumb shit in Newport News. And they were moving people who were down at one point of Newport News and then just relocating all of them. And by the way, that Riverboat Casino was supposed to be built by Donald Trump. He apparently bought up a whole lot of land down there. Guess what's not down there right now?
Riverboat.
Oh, Riverboat or any of that shit. It's that nothing came of it. It did nothing but cause upheaval in our community. They had to relocate people, and that again, that's for business and that's whatever the fuck. But it's a real issue, and it'll be a bigger issue if Republicans take power again. Like if they get a president and Gates has already brought up, we're going to make Donald Trump the Speaker of the House because that's apparently a rule or some shit. Like it's not politics anymore, or it's not government. It's fucking egos, and you need to sink or swim, and you need to be fucking ruthless. And I think the Democrats need to be more ruthless, and I think we need to see a lot more of that out on the campaign trails. I think we need to go for them on their record. I think Beto needs to do that, and I think he does a good job of it. He always does a really good job.
Abbott's got and he's out there doing it. Abbott's got quite a record to be accountable for. He's
sure.
not.
You can't freeze and kill people and also let however many tens of thousands of people die. But I mean in Congress in general. Fucking make Joe Manchin vote. Make them vote. Whether you're going to win or lose, make them vote. Make them show their hand. Because they have to go home to their constituents. Then you run on those fucking points. Hey, your fucking senator.
This is where I disagree, though, because you're going to run against Joe Manchin versus, say, all the other red states where you actually can flip from a Republican to a Democrat.
What do we do if Joe Manchin flips to the Republican Party?
We flip 2 seats in Kentucky and West Virginia. I don't know. We flip other seats. That's what I'm saying.
But that's what you got to do. But you have to be able to. You have to talk to people about things that are happening in their community, real things that are happening. And
again, that's why I say the messaging from the Democrats needs to be careful here, because are you messaging are you going to get a people anti Joe Manchin vote, or are you going to get a Democrats were succeeded in getting a major infrastructure bill passed that Trump was unable to do for 4 years. What sells a better story of success?
Which one's going to go further? And I'm not saying just Joe Manchin. I'm talking everybody that votes for it. And they should just run ads that show you would have had this in your pocket. This would have changed your life.
Sure, if we're actually coordinated to run those kind of ads. That's the thing. And that's the problem is we keep focusing on Joe Manchin, but like, are we really running against Joe Manchin? Like, we're going to fight, Democrats are going to fight Democrats instead of fighting other Republicans?
Yeah, but they're not necessarily fighting each other. And again, Joe Manchin has showed himself to be incredibly trustworthy if you listen to the White House. But
he's still approving all of Biden's judicial picks.
Okay.
Like I say,
what is any of this stuff going to matter if we don't get something like voting rights? What is nothing that the infrastructure bill? None of that's going to matter if Republicans successfully take the vote away from a huge chunk of Americans. And then we have a real fucking problem because gerrymandering
I agree.
Voting rights, all that shit.
But that's old news, honestly. They've been taking away voting rights since we've been fighting for voting rights. I mean, like that's not a joke. That's not necessarily a Joe Manchin. I guess this is where I'm fundamentally coming from is the Republican Party is really good at being a party. They're really good.
Yeah, Democrats
and this is a perfect example of being bad at it. You never fight, you never punch left. You never fight your own guys. It's always the other people who are the problem. I mean, granted, that's what lets people like Ted Cruz fester and become a bigger thing than he should be, but at the same time, it's what allows them to stay in power with such a minimal amount of public support. It's getting a lockstep with everybody. They should have. I really think they messed up by doing the second vote. They should have just focused on what they knew they could get it passed, and then go around and preening about that they passed what they wanted to pass, what they knew they could pass.
Yeah, but again, how does that help?
It helps them because it actually proves that the Democratic Party is a viable party and that people are willing to vote for them to get things done and get things done correctly.
The Democratic Party has been around for hundreds of years. They've done things.
But it doesn't have a good reputation now.
I mean, neither does the
Republican Party has a better reputation among Republicans than the Democratic Party has among Democrats.
And that is fair. I'm coming from a perspective of I'm your average voter. I care about very specific.
Well, then you're not the average voter, though. That's the thing.
Well, and you're right. Average voters, but that's not necessarily true. Even there may be everybody votes for something. There's a reason they vote, and some of it's dumb. You do have people who just vote Democrat to vote Democrat, and you do have people who vote Republican to vote Republican.
Most people vote Republican just to vote Republican. Let's make this like that clear. There's definitely a loyalty there.
Yeah, my mother texted me and was like, "Hey, they're looking to take away take away masks in schools. They're going to make them optional." I was like, "Yeah, no shit. You voted for that when you voted for Youngkin. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? Like, how did you see that going? Right? Like, there is that aspect, but and even if it's not necessarily how they vote, your average American does care about things, right? There are other
I
average
think
Americans
what the average American cares about. I think what the average American cares about, honestly, is I don't want the fighting. Let's just get something done that we all care about. Hey, we all care about making sure the roads don't have potholes. Basic government function, I think we can all agree that needs to be done. And
how far does that go?
I think in an era where the average person is sick of the argumentative stuff, sick of everything else, and hey, here's a bread and butter issue that's important to everybody, and it's good for America. I think it goes a lot further than people willing to want. I tend to disagree with the idea that you get more voters by becoming more radical. I think
I don't see it as radical, though. I see it as just putting this is what it is. This is what you could have gotten. This is what they voted against. If you vote this way, this is the goal. This is what you'll get. People like the only ads you see now are just this dude's a fucking asshole. Fuck that guy.
And that's the problem. And that's why we could say it. That's why you now have this ad where someone can go out the ad and say, "Hey, because of my leadership and effort, I got us a new bridge, new roads, new infrastructure. Look at all this great stuff I was able to bring back home and help improve my community." And that's a great selling point to say is that now we shot ourselves in the foot. We can't make that selling point because someone's looked at it and it's like, yeah, but half of your party is bitching that they didn't get to do enough. Or half your party is bitching that, the guy who did vote for, they're going to go sacrifice the guy who did vote for all that. It's like, take the wins you get and build on that. But actually let those wins be wins. It's like, that's the problem. It's like Obamacare. I know, we did Obamacare and then immediately everybody's like, oh, well, we should have had Medicare for all. That's the only way. And now you have a large section of the Democratic Party who's like, Medicare for all or nothing. We need a single payer, and that's the only possible solution to any medical issue. And it's like, that's just fundamentally not true. There's lots of ways to approach this, and you have to address it for what it is. So,
which the Build Back Better.
Yeah, and so it's like,
it would have dropped the prices of all of these drugs. And like I said, those roads, nobody gives a shit about those roads if you can't afford to have a car to drive on them because it costs you $1,500.
Oh, sure, we got a lot more to do, and I think that this is Democrats need to win the midterms. Democrats, they need to maintain the House. They need to maintain some sort of legislative control because it could spiral out very quickly if Republicans take control of both houses. It could get frustratingly ugly. But regardless, I think your opportunity is to say, look, we didn't drive you off a cliff. In fact, we built a bridge over that cliff. Let's go celebrate that and actually take the win instead of immediately turning around and being upset that well, you didn't get quite all you wanted. That's you never get all you want. It's always a compromise. It's always a compromise.
It's always a compromise, but they're missing a lot of things. And for me, I don't oh shit, I hit a pothole. Oh well. But I'm getting ready to have to start paying student loans again, and I'm staring down the barrel at that. And you can say what everybody's always like, well, you took the loans out, you should da 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 da. Yeah, well, I was 18 years old, and they were like, here, have all of this money. You can't buy a house. You can't do all of these things without credit, but they'll give you tens of thousands of dollars, and then not, it's you just don't know. You walk through in your freshman year, and we actually had a conversation, or I saw where somebody had tweeted this. That they were credit card lenders waiting for you. They were predatory practices. They made it very, very hard. I can't refinance my loans. You can refinance a house, but you can't refinance.
Oh, you can if you're going to pay interest, right? That's the big thing that bothers me about student loans, honestly, is that you have to pay interest on something that you can't discharge through bankruptcy. Like medical debt, you can discharge through bankruptcy. You can discharge a lot of stuff through but you can't get rid of student loans. They stick with you forever. They are when someone lends you money, when a lender lends you student loans, it is the safest investment because if you make any money at any point in the future, they're going to get their share of that. They'll garnish your wages. So charging interest rates charging these interest rates that are the same as a credit card is just that's predatory. This is a predatory lending. That's where I get the problem. That's where I get the problem is
It makes money for the government.
It doesn't even make money for the government, though. It makes money for like the middleman. It's the lending, the banking class. It's frustrating. It should not be a money making. Student loans should not be a money making thing.
It should be seen as an investment in the future, and we don't fucking take care of people. Everything should be seen as progress. That's the way we need education reform in this country in general. One, I'm over all the CRT bullshit. If you come at me with they're teaching critical race theory,
you mean they're teaching you that slavery is bad and you don't like it, so go away.
Exactly.
Sorry. Really?
You found grandma in your history book, and we're like, oh
yeah,
oh, that's mama. Oh
yeah,
whew. Like fucking what's her name? Kay Ivey down in Alabama. She just banned critical race theory, but she protested a little black girl going to school. Yeah, fuck her specifically. But that's the problem. It's they're non-issues. They're not looking at the actual issues that are being taught. They're looking at dumb shit. They're not looking at we need to be investing in our future. We need to be investing in children. We're investing in the military and the police, but we're not investing in education. We're not making sure every fucking kid has a laptop in front of them because tech is what's happening, right? That's their lives revolve around electronics. It's not like it used to be, and we're not investing enough in that. We're not investing enough in sending kids into trades, into community college, into higher learning of any sort, and all of that is the future. We're leaving it open to the class that can afford it, that can afford to send their kids to school, and these student loans make it so hard. And I'm not saying that it should just be free. I mean, honestly, maybe the fuck it should. Unless you have a private school, it should be
the thing
free.
we're talking about, they
make a fuck ton of money on
problem.
sports.
I mean, the whole student loan issue.
They didn't pay those
what
kids
we're really
for.
dancing around here is the fact that tuition has gotten stupid in this country. Like that's
absolutely
books and tuition are just absolutely stupid, and that we're really questioning whether or not whether or not higher education is actually about education or financial gain for the institution. Like we're having some real questions about that because we're seeing it, and yeah, a lot of the value is getting sucked out in these, like you said, these student loans. I said, I do think that student loans need to be accessible, because how else will someone who is in a disadvantaged neighborhood be able to go become a doctor? Like that, nobody's giving them money to. Nobody in their community is giving money to go to medical school. Maybe we should have a real question about whether or not higher education should be free or not. I think that's another conversation altogether. But
if it's free, it opens up access to that kid who wants to be a doctor. I'm not saying take away the rigor. I'm not saying take away the aspect, but it should be an opportunity, right? If it's free, you that same child in the poor neighborhood it doesn't have to look around and be like, fuck, how am I going to pay for this? Am I going to be in debt for the rest of my life? I can't do that. I don't know how I'm going to do any of this. I don't even know when I'm going to get my next meal. College isn't in the cards for me because it's expensive. They don't typically give student loans to poorer people. My mom and dad have run up credit cards, like shit like that. Like it takes them out
right.
Either way.
Well, I mean, but to go back to the idea of the free though, like there is a real question on is, like, for example, free education for a doctor, which is great, we got a doctor, but this doctor is now making $300,000 a year, $350,000 a year starting out. Is that fair to not expect them to pay back the education? Because they've improved their bit, and now they can pay it back. So now you run into the question of, do you give out student loan? Why pay them back?
No. Why even have loans or make it cost anything at all? You got a doctor out of it. That doctor had to go for 7 years and had to do all of these various things. It's it's like investing in the community. It's like anything else. It's like building. It's like playing The Sims, right? Like you need to make your community better, so you buy a fucking doctor, right? Like that. It should be like playing The Sims. It shouldn't be like playing Monopoly.
Yeah.
they are investments. I tell my kids all of the time, like what you're doing right now it's an investment in your future. It's not it's you don't get paid right now, but you have the opportunity to figure out what you want to do and do other things so that you can get paid later. To reinvest in that community. It's all about, it should be looked exactly like that. The country it's almost like the stock market. You are investing.
All right, I can see that. I mean, I guess that also makes the assumption that doctor will pay their taxes and pay back into the system anyway. So we would need a more you would need a more progressive tax system in order to support that as well.
I want to throw it out there that I think this entire that we disagree for like a couple seconds but we've gone on like a 40-minute tangent of you and I kind of going back and forth. That makes the show a little bit better. I'm not gonna lie, because we were going to talk about we have a bunch of stuff written down and not what, like, we touched on gerrymandering and voting rights. But we didn't fucking touch the grid at all yet. Which is a big fucking deal, right? In Texas.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think everybody's holding their breath. Supposedly, I think it's going to be a warm winter, is what Noah was saying. That we're going to have a warmer than usual winter, so we might not get a freeze.
Republicans are banking on climate change.
So, but yeah, I mean, they really didn't do anything to fix anything. They, passed a few. They passed a few feel-good stuff that kind of like moved some money around, but as far as I saw, they haven't put a hard requirement in to winterize the power generation and power grid, which is really the fundamental issue that happened in the first place. And to everybody,
so none of the problems.
Zero
of it.
Zero problems.
They were like, "Oh no, it's they saw the engine hanging off the plane and we're like,
they moved around.
Like there's like
they changed up ERCOT so it's easier to blame different people and things like that. But like the reality is that the
bolts around
the problem, fuel line freezes in order to get into the fuel line to the power station freezes. And that still can be frozen. Like that was what happened last time. I don't want to hear this bullshit about, it was renewable energy that caused the grid to collapse. No, it wasn't. It's a fucking lie. Renewable energy during that period was actually overperforming what it was expecting.
Yeah, last time I checked, the sun was still.
Well, it's actually it's mostly wind is what we're really talking about here. But even still, the wind generation was actually higher than anticipated during that period of time. What was failing was mostly natural gas plants, and actually one of our nuclear plants, I think, went off service for a little bit.
That's fun.
It's safely. Don't get me wrong. Safely. I'm a big proponent of nuclear power. I think we need more nuclear power.
No, I know. My dad is my dad works at a nuclear power plant, and we were in class the other day, and the alarm started going off, and it was longer than normal. And they're all like looking around, like, what is that? And I was like, that's the alarm at the nuclear power plant. If I'm not running, my dad works.
Right.
We're good. We're good. Don't even worry about it.
Right.
But yeah, it's gonna be a real issue going forward. And
and Beto even came out with this recently about the grid. The whole promise of having our own grid was cheaper prices. How much are you paying in electricity a month right now? Yes.
Me? Good question.
What about?
150? I don't know, man. I have never. I pay all of the bills. I do not pay the utilities. Is the only one.
Okay, so what I want you. Okay, so in that case, you have homework now. For the next time. I want you to go on. I'm curious now. I want you to go and look and see how much you're paying per kilowatt hour.
Oh dear God!
It's on your bill. It's somewhere. Probably it's like anywhere is
It's probably
it's the amount. It's the dollar per kilowatt hour is what you're charged.
Yeah, if it's some bullshit number, I'm calling my dad.
It'd be like, this, man? Well, okay, so I'm paying, I think, 13 cents an hour, kilowatt hour right now. I think I remember in other places I've paid as low as 7. So it really is. I'm curious. Not total bill, because that obviously, comes into play with insulation and how your heating source and all that. So like outside that, but just how much are you paying per kilowatt hour? I'm curious to see, because you have Dominion, right?
Yeah, Dominion.
And if I remember correctly, that's a state-run utility. Okay,
it is. Yeah, no, it's the only one we have in the state.
Texas is funky because there is no state-run utility.
We don't usually have that problem when the power goes out. Virginia Power, or it used to be called Virginia Power, so you'll hear me say Virginia Power. You'll hear people also call them VEPCO, because it was VEPCO in the 80s when my dad first started working there, and then they moved to Virginia Power in the 90s, and then they changed to Dominion. And to tell you how long that man's been there, he is a nuclear engineer, and he just got his bachelor's degree. He got his job as a nuclear engineer in the 80s, and he just got his bachelor's degree. But
so it gets better. I love not only that, decades.
Right? That motherfucker graduated with a 4.0 in nuclear engineering. He didn't get less than 100 in any class he ever took. How the fuck do you do that shit? Like, that's just crazy to me. I can barely add, and when I can add, it's 4. My kids come to me for extra work, and I'm like, man, I don't even. What is that? Where's the alligator? Which way does it go?
But that's the thing, though. It's a public utility, right? That's been. See, that's not the Texas system. It's so freaking weird, because the only public part of it is ERCOT, and they really just regulate the grid. But the grid is actually owned, the grid being the wires and tower and poles, but those are actually owned by a couple of different companies, which only deal with the power and the poles, who get paid a percentage by brokers who actually buy the power from the power plants and then sell it to you on this grid. But the reality is, even though that's what they're selling it for, your actual electricity be coming from everywhere, because, oh, by the way, it's a grid. So it's such a convoluted process and convoluted system.
What dipshit masterminded that?
Republicans. Enron. Enron.
No surprise there.
Remember, like, Enron, the company that almost bankrupted America because they. And you remember what their big scandal was? Was they were manipulating prices in California. Do you think California was the only place that they were manipulating those prices? They were doing it here too. The only difference is California actually gave a shit. So instead, this Enron, what they pushed and what they wanted, they got, and now, well, they're gone. But do you think that business concept went with them, or do you think other people are doing it and they're just manipulating it? They got smarter in how they're manipulating it. It's
Oh yeah,
it's an anti-competitive. Like, the idea is, you have more choice, but the reality is, you're going on, like, it's a convoluted process to switch. It's not easy. It's always a pain in the ass, because you're switching bill pays and everything, and you got to figure out these introductory plans, because you go on this site was it Choose Power? I forget the name of the site.
That sounds fucking stupid.
It's some kind of like Texas Choice or ChoosePower.com, and you're picking from all these plans, but like, if you just look at the numbers, like, 6 kilowatt hours, that's great, I'll take that one for 6 cents, and that's the cheapest, and I'll go for it. And then you realize, because there's all the fine print in there that you didn't read, that, that 6 kilowatt was actually that introductory price for the first 30 days, and your real price is going to be like 50 cents a kilowatt hour. Congratulations on your $300 electric bill. You can't switch again until next year.
That is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire. How the fuck? That is the most dystopian bullshit I've ever heard. Do you know what the fuck I do when I want to, like, if I want to move? Hey, Dominion, yeah, no, I live here now. Send me this address. Can you turn the power on? Yeah, we got you. Click. Oh, look, the fucking lights are on.
I wish it were that easy.
That is the dumbest.
It is ridiculous. I mean, moving. Oh, God, try moving. I would rather try and move my cable subscription from Comcast than try and move my power company.
That was easy too. Yeah. Hey Cox, your service is just terrible. Yeah, I'm not gonna use you guys nearby. And then I called Verizon and I was like, hey, those other guys, they were just they were fucking terrible. You guys want to come set up a box? Yeah, we'll be there Tuesday. All right, cool, I'll be here Tuesday too.
Yeah. It's the whole point of this was supposed to be make things cheaper. And reality is, it made it.
They made Texas.
It made it so it's like you have to have a PhD and you have to be a savvy consumer of electrical plans. Like the same way, like you have to spend more time looking at your electrical plan than you do your cell phone plan. It's like
that's stupid. That's so dumb. And all it's doing is making it so people get rich. And they don't even make that fucking thing work anyways. And then you have stuff like the Abbott tax. We're going to go ahead and tax you guys for the time that your shit didn't work. I know that you didn't have power. And, you may have had a family member who froze to death or some other terrible, terrible, terrible thing. But, yeah, we're going to need you to pay another $100.
Oh, I know. It's the whole thing.
Our bad. How is nobody suing the state of Texas?
Well,
for that,
because
by the way?
This is a very pro-business friendly state,
but that's not a pro-business thing. That's we're just taxing you, and we didn't provide you a service. We didn't do anything for you. We fucked it up, but you're going to pay for our.
But the problem is, I feel like it's a pro-business state, and that people don't like. Who you're going to sue? You're going to go to Texas courts to sue them.
I mean, push that shit to get it federal.
See, I don't think federal rules don't really work. It doesn't.
They don't want to meddle in Texas law, but they fucked over a lot of people. It wasn't just Democrats. It wasn't just Republicans.
I don't know what the federal government really could do about it without forcing the connections. I do think that they
fucking make them pay.
Well, I think that they should. The Texas should definitely. The federal government should definitely look in. It would have been a great time as part of this infrastructure bill. Make the power grid a national security issue, and we need to ensure national security on the power grid. Universal. Hey, it's not a good idea to have NASA going out of power. It's not a good idea to have. How many military bases we have around here? Like, they need power too.
Who are you talking to? We have.
I know.
We have
I know.
I live in Hampton Roads. We've got everybody: Coast Guard, Army, Air Force.
Well,
Marine.
You live in a red state.
We don't have.
We got Space Force.
No, I don't.
Actually, I don't know. Actually, we got NASA. So.
NASA is not Space
but
Force.
they're cool like that, though.
Yeah, because they're actually doing actual things.
Oh, I know.
That matter. I'm half tempted to join Space Force just so I can stand around and be like, all right.
I still like. It's just ridiculous. I think it's one of those things that's like, oh yeah, it's Space Force, but it's really the Air Force.
Right? Their planes are a little bit higher.
Right.
So they have to wear helmets.
Right, something like that.
Well, I know I promised you a Bodhi story before we got out of here, and we got way, way, way off on a tangent a couple of times. Because let's go ahead and go back to the fact that this all started when I and you were like, wait, let's talk about this in depth for 45 minutes.
Look, you can be disappointed in Joe Manchin, and I completely understand that. But also I think it's important to look at the big picture strategically. The enemy is Republicans. The enemy is the people who want to get rid of Roe versus Wade. That's what we need to address. That we disagreed some on a funding bill, tax and spend bill. Those are the kinds of politics I want to have. That's what I like. I wish that was the big draw and thing to actually care about, and that we weren't having to care about losing Roe versus Wade. It's like, are we gonna go into the 2022 and with fuck Joe Manchin, we need to shoot Democrats in the foot, or are we going to go into we need people who are going to support Roe versus Wade?
Yeah, but it's not going to matter going into 2022 if we don't pass voting rights. That's the most important thing that has to pass. And we can't do that with Joe Manchin. So it's almost like we're damned if we do, damned if we don't.
Well,
before we go back down this road,
I still say you spend the energy to make him irrelevant, not to remove him. Because again, unless you think a more progressive
I agree with that.
candidate could win West Virginia, I personally think that that's not going to happen. But if you think that. You want to test that theory, but
no, I don't think that. I'm just saying. I'm not. I agree with you with making him irrelevant, but that's neither here nor there. So, the other night when all the news broke that he said he wasn't going to vote on Build Back Better, and he came out and allegedly said this shit about poor people. I'm just sitting on the couch, and I forgot. Bodie was like in the kitchen, probably burning it down or something,
as they do.
I was like, as he does. I'm watching it come down, and he said something. They said he said something. I was like, man, fuck Joe Manchin. And then all I heard was little feet just, and comes running around the corner. He goes, yeah, fuck Joe Manchin. I was like, yeah.
I failed as a parent.
Yeah, but no.
You don't need to be saying that, buddy.
No. Let's have a conversation about and how Daddy is also right. It's going to be confusing, but let's just end this conversation with you not using that word.
Right. Don't get me in. Just don't get me in trouble. That's all I care about. Like, you can say what you got to say, but just don't get me in trouble.
Use it with your friends, but make sure you don't get caught. I don't know, man. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this thing down. Again, you can find us on our social media on Twitter at Beto Days. You can find us on all podcast streaming services. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Music. We have a YouTube channel. We don't do video anymore. Ryan didn't want y'all to see how pretty he always is. It's him, not me. So find us anywhere you stream podcasts. Let your friends know. Keep on getting out. Keep on volunteering. Keep on donating. And keep on looking ahead to Beto Days.